Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wealth Bridge podcast. And this is where we have practical conversations about money, wealth building, legacy, and financial empowerment. I am your host today, and my name is Adebola. As always, I'm joined by my amazing co host, Ademola and Modupe. How are you guys doing today?
Well, awesome. How we all doing, viewers? Hope we're excited. Hope we're being blessed. It's already almost June is almost wrapping up. How you doing, ladies? I hope you guys have been having a wonderful June so far.
It's been
Yeah,
amazing, if you ask me. It's a lot of graduation in the air, right? So people living in, and it's just so exciting to see how people are putting the hard work and then they're getting out now, being, celebrated to move to the next step of their life. And we say congratulations to all the graduates out there.
yeah,
Yes, congratulations.
congratulations.
You
It's
did it.
great. Yeah. And one thing I love about this panel, this wonderful people, is that we don't just come here to talk about just theory. We speak from our lived experience. We
Mm,
speak from community observation.
mm,
We speak, with a passion and genuine desire to help our community. To help build, to help grow, and so that we can all thrive together. And once again, together, we will be having a very practical and honest conversation about how immigrants in the diaspora can build together, you know, support one another and create lasting community wealth. It is a powerful concept that has helped many communities build wealth for generations, and that is community wealth. How immigrants here in the diaspora can build together. While individual success is important, some of the most successful, I'm sure Murupe and Ademola will agree with me that some of the most successful communities around the world, have discovered that wealth grows faster and better, and smarter when people share knowledge, they share resources, opportunities, and accountability. You know, but really building together isn't always easy, and that's another thing. Everything has their own, challenges, but
mm.
without the right structure, without communication, expectations, and good intentions can quickly turn into conflict. So today we will explore all those areas, what community wealth really means, and how we can tap into this powerful concept in a very wise and smart way. So if you've ever wondered how to build wealth beyond your paycheck, this conversation is for you. It's time
Mm.
to get settled down and let's dive in. All right. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is just to find out what is community wealth. What does it entails? What are the values? What are the benefits? What makes it so powerful? Immigrants understand personal wealth, but they say community wealth could be something bigger, something better. So I want us to just deep dive into that and just talk about, discussing what is this thing? What is community wealth? And I will let one of my co-host start this. Mudipe, you want to give it a
Yeah,
go? What do
I'll
you
be more
what
than
can you
happy
tell
to
us
do
about
that.
community wealth?
Excellent. I'll be more than happy to take a stab at that. And just to say again, hello, viewers. One of the words that have rang, like a bell over and over again on this podcast, if you will agree with me, is the word community. We keep talking about, oh, our immigrant community, our immigrant community. And that stands out on its own. So if we're trying to break it down just from what Debola is talking about, I would say that community wealth or community wealth building is stemming from a communal concept of wealth building, such that a shared economic strength of a group of people is being put to test. Where you see these individuals with similar belief system, similar value system, they are guided by a particular drive when they are intentionally building together, and when we say building together, maybe which means they are putting their resources together, protecting together, and sharing economic opportunities so that their families could benefit, their businesses could benefit, even their future generations could thrive. Which means this community are coming together with a decision not just to be better for themselves now. So they are futuristic in their thinking. They are thinking beyond the now and they're saying, you know what, how about we take care of the generation to come? So the community well building in itself, it's a process whereby we're trying to help our community create, grow, protect, and pass down wealth together instead of just everyone struggling alone. There is this adage, and I want to believe, you know, a lot of us probably have heard about it before. If you're trying to go fast, be prepared to go solo, go alone. But if you desire to go far, FAR, as in robots, then be ready to go together. Now, if it is your desire to take that step, right, of a father, you know, Fred, which means this goes beyond just one generation, 2 generations, 3 generations. We're talking for, you know, till perpetuity, right? Then it's about moving in that space, moving from individual survival now to a collective progress, creating what we call a stronger family vibe, stronger communities, and stronger financial foundations. And to be honest, we've seen a lot of ethnicity groups practice this, you know, in this age and time. And they've been doing it for a long time. And we also could take a look at the other communities, and I'm like, what is going on? How come we're not getting it? What exactly needs to be put in place? And I think that's one of the reasons that actually, you know, triggered this conversation today. So I hope that has been, you know, I mean, helpful to some extent to the viewers and the listeners when you're trying to look at it from the angle of what is community we're building. And I want to say it goes beyond tribe or ethnicity. It could even be a professional setting, right? Whereby some group of people, career path, are just striving towards a common goal. And they begin to put certain things together that will, you know, enhance their community and also their belief as well as their value system.
Thank you, Modupe. And, you know, just looking at it, a lot of things actually happen, you know, I mean, have been happening even in our own background, you know, collective success, people doing things together. But when it comes to wealth building, you know, we tend to just not really look into that direction.
Okay.
We raise you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. We do that. You know, a lot of that. We educate our children. The whole community do that. But when it comes to wealth, well, anyway, let's move on. You know, that was a good start, Lupe. And now let's talk about, you know, some of the core values and some of the benefits that building together could actually bring about. You know, we talk about things like, you know, it's all about collaboration and you need to have trust and all that. So, Ademola, what are some of the benefits and the values of building together?
I mean, thank you so much, Modupe and Adebola. I mean, thank you for really setting the foundation straight, Modupe, with that. I think that was a very, very laid out foundation. And I think one of the values, you know, we must all understand, you know, like Modupe also said, is, you know, an acronym. When you say team, it says together, everyone achieves more. You know, and there's only so much, you know, they say a tree doesn't make a forest. So when you want to look at when we talk about some of the core values, some of the things that brings a community and allows a community to thrive when they come in oneness, you know, it's collaboration. You know, any community that is not ready to collaborate, there's no way you can. So collaboration and unity has to be one of those core values that they have to embrace, you know, irrespective of, you know, religion, ethnicity. You know, we must be able to come there together as one in a unity. Trust is another thing. A lot of times when people want to do business, there's no way you could come together with somebody you don't trust. So there has to be some element of trust, honesty, creating some type of transparency around relationship. Especially when it comes to money. They say money always brings the true character in you. So, but
Out here.
exactly. So, but there has to be this honesty and this transparency that has to
Yeah.
be there. And in a place whereby there's trust, you can't talk about trust without talking about accountability. People have to be able to come together. You know what? Everybody has a responsibility. So there's a structure, everybody's accountable. So we can't say we're going into business. We all agree that we're going to do this. You would do your part, I would do my part. And I decide that I just don't want to do it because I don't want to do it. No, there has to be some type of accountability and a structure when we're doing all these things. And I think that's really, really key. And there's a sense of ownership, because if we're coming together to collaborate as a community and there's no sense of ownership, everyone has to feel that they have a piece of the pie. It's not one person's business. It's not that person's tribe. It's not this person excelling. No. And we've seen that too often, especially in a lot of the African communities where everyone is about self. It's not about ownership. So, but when everybody comes together, helping one another, to grow assets together, to come together under one umbrella, I think this helps a lot. And we have to be projecting long term. It's not about now. And I think that's one of the challenges that we see when people are trying to collaborate, especially if you don't have the same ideology, you're not in oneness, in sync together. There has to be that long term. It's not, oh, some get quick rich thing we want to do. Let's just come together and we will just want to just gain. When you see most communities that are thriving right now, is because they're thinking long term, they're thinking legacy, they're thinking generational wealth. And I think that's one of the things that communities have not been able to come together and really work together. These are some of the core values that I see that it's missing in most of all those other communities. And the communities that have most of all these core values are the ones really thriving, in today's economy, especially in our diasporan communities. So that's one of the things that I can see. Those are the core values, and obviously we can cite several other core values, but I think these ones are actually the bedrock in order for any community to thrive.
Thank you, Demola. And then, you've really said it all. Community wealth means that we don't just gather to support each other in in crisis. We organize to build lasting opportunities together. And there are benefits that comes with this. We have things like, you have more flexibility, you have stronger local businesses, increased ownership, and better access to opportunities because you have networking, and then we're building generational wealth together. So we have established that it is a good thing. It's good, and it's something that every community should want to do this, especially the immigrant community. I mean, they say two heads are better than one. You can imagine multiple heads. They're really going to go a long way. So let's quickly look at some of the ways by which we can implement, community wealth building in our community. Let's just check some of these, and I want us to look at shared resources, using our resources together, and maybe Monica wants to take a dive at that.
Yeah, excellent. I'll go ahead and do that, do justice to that. But before I do that, I want to sound a note of warning to our audience. We probably think these things are not possible. We probably think these things are like, oh my God, this is out of our way. This is out of my league. But do you know that you're already doing some communal, activity, for lack of a better word? Because if I look at it, I sat down here and I'm just looking through and I'm like, when it comes to certain things, so we want to purchase some things for parties, we see the community rally around. because now we want to spend. You see that part?
Yeah.
When we hear things like, oh, we're having a particular celebration, which is a good thing, right? We have people come together. That's when you begin to see, some groups and all those layers and all that. I'm not calling out tribes here and I'm calling out any celebration, but we see those things happen like right in our faces. Even when it comes to let's go ahead and we're trying to do, we call it maybe protein sharing, maybe a purchase and all that. We're already doing this. We're just saying, how about you now bring the same concept to opportunities that have the ability to create wealth building that will go beyond now? Because to be honest, 20 years ago, those who came together to purchase a particular fabric for a particular celebration, 30 years after, those fabrics are no longer relevant. And permit me to just share this, right? And if we're beginning to look at how can we implement this, I'm saying that we're already doing it, but we're not just doing it in this way and manner.
Smart way. Yeah.
So what we are saying is, can we have a shift? Can we have a change in narrative? Bring the same vibe, the same energy, passion to now a wealth building opportunity. And some of those things in terms of shared resources could be investment clubs, whereby you have a group of trusted individuals, they pull together money to invest in, whatever asset, right? Building asset, real estate, businesses, and other assets, whereby they go into this conversation with a structure. They go into this conversation with legal agreements in place. Everybody understands their rights. They're understanding who the individuals with the subject matter experts, knowledge base for that particular line. So we're just not committing funds to individual who has nothing or knows nothing about this, right? For example, 10 families contributing monthly into a legally structured investment club, right? That will end up investing in rental property, index funds, or even some small business opportunities. Others are real estate partnership. I talked about the group buying power. We're already doing that, right? Whereby, but we're doing it for the purpose of consumption. You get it? You see that? How about us focus that attention and that energy into things that will build wealth? I'll stop at that shared resources, Debola, so that we could actually touch on other areas. I'm sure the audience probably have seen an insight into where we're driving with this.
Thank you, Modupe. And something just came to my mind about the group. Like, it's so funny. It's like, we come together a cow and they will share in quarters.
We're buying cow. That's consumption.
We buy cows, we share 2 quarters. That's group buying.
It is.
It is group buying. Anyway, so let's just move on. I love the passion that's my co-hosts are bringing into dates. It's just so interesting. Let's talk about business development and they have having cooperatives or supporting each other in starting businesses and all that. These are some of other ways that we can implement community wealth. The idea is the fact that you are not doing it alone and struggling. You are using the resources from the community, and once this person has achieved what they want, we move to the next person. So it's not like someone is the only one. No, everybody gets gets their turn to actually benefit from the community. So what about education and empowerment? Ademola, do you want to talk briefly about that before we move on?
Yeah, I think that's a very, very important, because when we really look at everything we've just talked about, it stems from a place of some type of financial education, because everything we just talked about surrounds money, because there's no way you pull in resources. What kind of resources? We're not bringing yams together. We're not bringing fabrics together. We're pulling resources. And what are those resources? They are financial resources. But unfortunately, most of us are not even educated about finance. And I think that's another area whereby it becomes very difficult for people to come together. But understanding and having financial literacy groups also is something that's very, very integral in order to fully understand, the credit system, tax system, what kind of investments are we even going to? If we don't have any literacy, I can't just say, oh, let's come together and let's go buy a gas station. What do we understand about how the gas station functions? Or maybe we want to start a transportation business. What do we know about those things? So education is very important. Financial literacy groups, plugging yourselves to all kind of different mentorship programs, workshops, learning how business ownership works, how to repair credit, maybe life insurance, some of the pillars that will allow your business to actually function and to stand properly. So I think these are some of the things that's very, very important. And we must also understand, for a lot of us that are in the immigrant communities now, not too many of us probably came here when we were very, very young. And even if you came here when you were young, how many of us had access to financial literacy workshops or empowerment programs? So now look at, as maybe a middle-aged immigrant or somebody even in their 50s, if you don't even understand how money works, how to build wealth, how can you actually even transfer that to your kids? So here, when we're talking about this, even youth well-being is important, because as a parent, even if you don't understand how to collaborate and understand how financial literacy really helps when it comes to well-being, it becomes difficult. So it's also important that we understand these things so we can even the baton, we can pass the baton on to the youth, to the new generation coming on. And there's no way we can have that if we don't have these learning platforms whereby our children are also educated about these things. So at a young age, they're embracing, community building, community gathering, coming together so we can build. And if you see everything that is happening in the communities that are thriving well, most of all these communities have
Yeah.
not only done well, but they have also transferred this to their own kids, and their own kids are taking
Yes.
it to the next step. So I think this is very, very important. Public speaking, career planning, leadership. These are some of the things that our youth needs to be taught about. Our children need to start to get, so that we can start to build our communities and even transfer generational wealth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Our time is, it's going, and I'm, trying to say, oh, can we cover everything? But we will try to do justice to whatever we can before we round up. So I want us to quickly, we have a case study today of our own community, and which we have already mentioned. Modipe has already touched base on it, that, we've sort of hinted at the fact that this idea of this concept of community wealth is not something that is common in our community. And we just want to know, point out, Afso, why is it uncommon? Why don't we want to do this? We know it's good to come together to do this. We know the benefits. We know what it can do for us. But why is it that it's not just common? It's not something that we are seeing compared to other immigrant communities around that we see around. If Moriba can just give us like 2 or 3 points, 2 points on that, and Demola, you can touch base, with another 2 points. Why do you think this is uncommon in our community?
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And we talked about, I think I like to again emphasize that communal, transaction is not necessarily uncommon, but our focus in our own African immigrant community, it's pretty much focused on more on the consumption piece.
Mhm.
So we are having a conversation to say, let's have a switch, okay, of the script. Let's move it to another part. And one of the reasons why I say it's uncommon is because survival mode comes before strategy.
Mm.
Hmm.
Everybody's just like, oh, I have to take care of my family. It's me, myself, and I. And so the concept of I just want to go alone because I want to go so fast, immediate gratification, and then we begin to pass on the same concept. That is one of the reasons why, you don't see it becoming a forefront,
For
conversation in the African immigrant family or community. before people can build together, they must first feel financially safe, which is, very solid, which is part of some of the things we talk about, right? Because if you say you're going to be part of a community whereby they're pooling resources together, you need to have, the wherewithal to do that. Many
Yeah.
families are heavy on obligations as we speak right now. The last episode we had, we talked about credit cards, right? And they are so concerned about still, I call it black taxes, right? Constant remittance back home to Africa, constant remittance back home because there's a need for such, right? I mean, the sub-Saharan African reached 54 billion in 2023, right? That was according to the World Bank report. Remittance flowing to the sub-Saharan Africa. That is huge, people.
That's huge.
Yeah,
So the
54
challenge is
billion.
not generosity. We were born into generosity. We live it, we breathe it in and out. But the challenge is unplanned generosity that leaves no room for wealth building. So that's another thing that stands in the way as a roadblock. And trust issues from past experiences. Trust me, Deborah talked about it. We all are speaking on this podcast because of certain experiences we've had, and we are not being so selfish and saying, well, now we know better. We're probably trying to clean up some mess. We're trying to, build our lives now that we know better. We're saying, let us change the narrative and help the next neighbor, out there. That's why we're having these conversations. Okay. So many of us have been beaten, maligned. People we trusted with certain things have just, ended up messing things up. And so we're like, you know what? I'd rather just run solo right now. I don't want troubles.
I
As
know,
far
right?
as,
Just
you can't trust people with money because maybe you had trusted somebody in time past and then they ended up eating you at the back. Even as far as our African immigrant community, even to worship centers, you find out that, and I'm going now into religion, right? Depending on whatever the religion is, right? We find out that people, even in that setup, cannot even be trusted because somebody is either envious of another. And the list goes on. Too much informality and not enough structure. When it comes to business and community well-building people, we need to be structured about it. The individuals, community that we're talking about that is thriving, and I'm going to just lay out the names right now. The Jewish community, those are very good examples. The Asian communities, those are very good examples that we've seen. They put structure in place. They go by the rules. You flaunt the rule, you face the consequences. Are we ready to do that in the African immigrant community? I don't see a lot of that now. And that's why we're having a conversation around that. I'll rest my case on that, Debola.
thank you. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at the clock, tick tock, but I'm gonna let Demola just chip in, one or two things. You have just about 1 minute.
No problem. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things that goes into why we just can't put things together as a community. When we also look at things like the division in nationality. We can see what's happening, the xenophobia that's happening. In what's even going on in a place like South Africa, and I'm going to throw it out there. We see all this kind of things that's going on. This tribal, this class, this ego thing. Nobody wants this tribe to be better than me. This class, we play this whole class structure, and I think this is one of the things we talked about: lack of financial education around ownership. We don't understand how most of all these things work in the African immigrant community. All we're just doing is work hard, but we're not well educated in some of these areas. So I think these are some of the areas whereby, even despite our academic knowledge, we still do not have any type of economic empowerment because we lack financial literacy. Fear of legal or tax immigration consequences. We are looking for ways to cut corners. We don't want to go by the books, and these are some of the things that we see here. And the list goes on and on and on. But because of our time, I just yield it back to you, Debola.
Well, thank you. And like I said, there's a lot of them. But I believe there are people that are hearing us today that would really think about these things and know that all it takes is just for us to be able to come together and build together. How further will go in being able to empower our community. And like Modupes also mentioned, there are legal things that you need to also put into consideration. Get your whatever you are doing, get it well structured. Don't just give words of mouth. So, okay, I'll give you my money. You do this for me. Everything should be well documented and all that. And I believe maybe some other time we go further on this topic, to really dive more into it. But we have to go today. Uh, I believe we've been able to do justice to it. And, it reminds me of something very powerful. That no one builds completely alone. Every successful person has benefited from a relationship, from a knowledge, from an opportunity, maybe a support from some other people. And the question isn't whether communities matter. The question is, how do we build community in a way that creates, in a way that it creates wealth instead of conflict?
Mm.
Because when it is well
Mm.
done, when it is done properly,
Mhm.
community wealth can actually become one of the most powerful tools
Yeah.
available to immigrants' family.
Yeah.
So remember, trust is important, structure is very essential, and at the same time, accountability is non-negotiable. So if this conversation today challenged you, like it challenged your thinking and gave you new ideas, then you need to share it with someone in your network, somebody in your community. Also, subscribe and join us next time as when we bring another very interesting topic on the World Bridge. Uh, Turn on your notifications. We're here every week, and we just want to say God bless you and thank you for joining us today. We love you, and
Thank you, everyone.
now.
All right.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
God bless.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.